La le city, le sicho, chilo, 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 e mandi lanjalo. Chilo, chilo, e mandi lanjalo. Gilo, gilo, e mandi lanjalo.
This is Gil Scott Heron with some bad news. It's called angel dust. It's a killer white powder or a chemical mix that is sprayed or sprinkled on tobacco or marijuana cigarettes. It has come between the best of friends. Don't sell it, buy it, give it, or take it. In other words, don't mess with it. It may leave someone close to you very dead. That's no way to treat a friend. That's no way to treat yourself.
It just ain't worth that.
Yo, this is the Microscope here, Michael Franti from Spearhead and Disposable Heroes of Hypocrisy, and you're listening to KCSB 91.9 FM Santa Barbara. Hold the vibes. Free Mumia, free Leonard, stand firm. Peace.
My name is Michael Franti, and I want to say a few words about media and democracy. In November 1999, in the streets of Seattle, I saw something I'll never forget. Over 50,000 people from every background imaginable speaking truth to power as the tear gas, pepper spray, and rubber bullets rained on our heads. Over 50,000 of us made a joyful and passionate noise, demanding that human rights, justice, and protection of the environment be the priorities that guide global decisions, not merely corporate profits. While a group of corporate elites met behind closed doors, making decisions that would impact all of us. The corporate mainstream media had a different idea of what was happening in the streets of Seattle. Instead of focusing on the police brutality or the undemocratic nature of the WTO ministerial meetings, the corporate media focused on the, quote, rioting of the demonstrators, the destruction of property that in reality was only carried out by a handful of people. Talk to anyone who is participating in the protests and you'll hear about the colossal misrepresentation of this historic collective act of resistance. The corporate mainstream media put its own frame on the event and continues to use the same misleading language to this day. This happens to activists all the time, all around the globe. It's frustrating. But can we get angry with the media, or can we get even? We can become the media. We can do it ourselves. In the midst of the WTO protests, a new model for do-it-yourself democratic participatory media was born, the Independent Media Center. Using the website www.indiemedia.org, activists, journalists, and just regular citizens were able to publish their own reports, photos, audio recordings, and videos directly and immediately to a worldwide audience. Now, 3 years later, Indie Media continues on as a decentralized international network of grassroots reporters, techies, and activists. There are currently over 100 independent media centers in countries around the world, helping community-based news and voices reach a global audience. And Indie Media is only one example in a growing movement of community media, media that's people-driven, not profit-driven, where we tell our own truths rather than relying on the lies and manipulations of the corporate media. Anti-corporate globalization activists know that another world is possible, and I believe that another media is possible too. So become the media, stay human, and power to the peaceful. For Reclaim the Media, this is Michael Franti. Peace.
Media and Democracy radio features are a production of the Cascadia Media Alliance on the web at reclaimthemedia.org.
I fight a revolution, boy, yeah, no. I fight a revolution, come here, yeah, no.
And a positive greetings, brothers and sisters, for freeing the dome, freeing your mind, true freedom. This is www.kcsb.org, 91.9 FM, KCSB FM, Santa Barbara, California. Public affairs program entitled African Kaleidoscope. This hour, we will be discussing the racist concept of the prison industrial complex. A few years ago, Sister Angela Davis was on our program, and we talked about the dangers of privatizing the prison system. We had Dr. Mutula Shakur, the father of our late and great beloved brother Tupac Shakur, when he was housed at the Lompoc Correctional Facility, which is miles north of Santa Barbara. He's spoken to us also about the dangers of the prison industrial complex. Again, today, we want to take another look inside at this white supremacist ideology with our guest, Mr. ElijahShabazzBah, who is in Harlem, New York. And he has done so many things with our youth, the prison ministry, and he's going to talk about his alternative programs he offers to our youth. We also have Mr. Chris Bickel, who is one of the organizers of the Isla Vista Halfway House, which is a transitional house for people who have left the prison and jail systems before they get transitioned into the streets. We're going to talk to him about that. We also have Sonya Baker, who is the director of the Community Recovery Network in Santa Barbara, to help our brothers and sisters who are recovering alcoholics and addicts and trying to help them find treatment programs that are different than going to jail. So we want to thank you very much for tuning in to our program on African Kaleidoscope. At this time, I'd like to welcome our guests. First, I would like to welcome Brother ElijahShabazzBah from Harlem, New York City. How are you doing? You are live on KCSB.
Yes, peace be unto you. Assalamu alaikum to the whole KCSB audience and the panelists, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, my brother. I appreciate your time and your effort and just your dedication and commitment to our people, to make sure that we keep our freedom. I'm going to start the program with you, Brother Elijah. I want you to give us, in your perspective, based on your experiences, based on your contacts you have with the prison system, can you tell us what is the prison industrial complex?
Well, as I'm sure the other panelists will attest to, it's just a way of re-enslaving our people. As you know, the Constitution, I believe it's the 13th Amendment, says that we will be free. We will be free, but under the condition that we don't commit a crime, and that if we commit a crime, it allows us to be enslaved again. And the same way they tricked our fathers onto the slave ships by promising them more gold for their labor, more than they were receiving in their own country. And once they got to the ships, they were entrapped and enslaved from that point all the way to these shores that we are on now. It's the same way with the traps they set for young black males, in particular, and Hispanic males, in the streets with drugs and crime and violence, and that they will receive more gold for their labor. So making a legal dollar is not appealing to our young people today, but making money illegally is very appealing.
Brother Elijah, why do you feel that our young people are not in fear of this process of incarceration? What is happening to our young people that they are overcoming this fear of being in prison?
Well, it is a very, very complex process. I mean, all the way from the time that they are babies up until the time they are adults, they are being prepared and, I would say, manufactured for this prison industrial complex. It starts as a child. First of all, most people don't know you don't have to vaccinate your child. A lot of people don't know that. And they make it mandatory that any child that goes into the public school system has to be vaccinated. From there, that's a step, because now you're dealing with a chemical imbalance in a lot of our children when they have these 21 different vaccines pumped into them. It has an effect on their central nervous system. Now, I know this may sound like high science, but I really want to make it simple. Anything that affects the central nervous system affects the behavior of the human being. And when you have a generation, what they call ADHD and the attention deficit disorder and attention deficit hypertension, whatever. You have a generation that does things without thinking about it. In other words, they have no sense of consequence. So they jump into things before they even know they're into it. So there's a chemical preparation that's taking place. Then the miseducation of our people, where our people are taught that if you go to school, get a good education, you'll get a job, you get a job, you get a job. And then when they grow up, they find their uncles, their relatives, and their older siblings get a college degree, but yet they have no job. So what is there left for them? The streets. And there are plenty of employment opportunities out in the streets that's not available for them. And we know it costs more to incarcerate them than it does to put them through college. So it's that process going on. Then the breaking down of the homes. Then the fact that we can't discipline our children, and that if we do discipline our children are taken into group homes, which is another manufacturing plant that prepares our youth for prison. So this is a process that starts from babies. When you look at what the media is pumping into the ears, into the brains of our children, the type of hip-hop that's allowed. It's not that there's not rappers making conscious hip-hop. I'm one of them. But they only pump into our babies' ears the type of hip-hop that promotes criminal life, that promotes getting locked up like it's a good thing. The videos promote this type of lifestyle. So our youth are being manufactured for the prison system to be re-enslaved in this modern day and time.
I definitely agree with you on that, Brother Shabazz, because you can see with the media, with the television, with the videos, with the music, that they are gearing up our young people for prison. I can see how they're keeping them violent, keeping them not wanting to deal with each other. And it is just amazing. It's very subtle, but yet it's very direct of how they're affecting our young people. And I thank you for sharing that detailed information to get our minds focused and to get ready into where we're heading if we're not careful.
Yes.
Brother Elijah, I'm going to introduce Mr. Chris Bickel. Mr. Chris Bickel was one of the organizers of a halfway house in Isla Vista. Isla Vista is a campus community, it's like 2 minutes away from the campus. Most of the students stay in that area. He also had a comment about the prison industrial complex system, relating it to slavery. And I wanted Mr. Bickel to go ahead and elaborate on that. Mr. Bickel, welcome to KCSB. Thank you very much for coming to our program.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I think anytime you talk about the prison system, you have to talk about slavery. Take the statistics, for example. In 1861, there were 2 million people enslaved in the United States. In 2005, there's 2.1 million people. 1 million of those are black men. Black women are increasingly being incarcerated by the system as well as Chicanos and Latinos and Southeast Asians. And so we've got a system of slavery, and we got to be very honest about that our struggle right now is similar to the abolitionist movement. And I myself consider myself a prison abolitionist, in that I believe our prison systems need to be dismantled as we know it. Now, that doesn't mean that we won't have some type of prison for those very rare numbers of people, less than 5% who are there for murder or rape. But what we need to start thinking is having a system that is based on humanity. And our system, the very root of it is slavery. Look at Angola State Prison in Louisiana. It used to be a plantation. In 1865, it turned into a prison. The 13th Amendment was that kind of connection between slavery and imprisonment, and it hasn't changed. If you look at the statistics across the board, it hasn't changed that much. And I think, too, we need to commend our youth. If we look at youth crimes over the past 10 years, they've been going down. And if you look at what our children are facing today, they are facing far more than any other generation has had, as far as a very rigid police state that is targeting our communities.
Definitely is correct on that, Chris Bickel, because we can see that happening today. And as Brother Elijah was sharing that with us, it is a conspiracy. It is a setup process. And I want our listeners to be very clear that this is not something that just happened overnight. This is a pre-planned strategy. Because if we free our young people, then they will be able to overturn the system. They will be able to question authority. And they do not want that. The people who are in control do not want that. Chris, you also talked about give us a little bit more a scenario of between the slavery period and the incarceration of people today. Relate that a little bit. You touched on it, but can you kind of give me a little bit more connectiveness with those two major entities?
Well, I think, when we talk about the prisons, we can't think of the prisons as ways of combating crime. It's not about that. It's about controlling populations. And look again at who's there. You look at, about 50%, close to 50% of our prison population are African Americans. Close to 20% are Latinos. Another additional 1% to 2% are Native Americans. It's about controlling populations. And when you go from, whether you go from 1863 to present, we saw one of the biggest increases in the prison population during the 70s. And when was that? That was right after the Civil Rights Movement. It was right after the Brown Power Movement, right after the Black Power Movement, right after the American Indian Movement. The prison became a way of controlling populations. And between 1970 to 2000, we haven't seen a significant increase in crime. The statistics don't show that, but what we have seen is an increase in the amount of punishments given for crime. So we're seeing people being locked up for minor offenses. We've got most of the prison population who are there for nonviolent offenses, a fair majority of which are there for drug offenses, things that people should not be incarcerated for, but rather should be rooted through recovery programs. It's a mental health issue, it's a health issue. It's not a criminal justice issue, but the prisons are not about controlling crime. They're about controlling populations.
Definitely. Prisons are not designed to control crime. They are designed to control people who are broke, people who are poor, disabled, and communities of color. And also, we have to pay attention to that, ladies and gentlemen. We have to be careful. You have to turn off a lot of these video games and watch what's happening in the community. Thank you for that, Chris. I really appreciate you kind of giving us that connectiveness where we wanted to share that with our listeners. I would like to have Sonya Baker please state a couple of issues. She has some statistics. You brought up a good point, Chris, about how most of the prisoners are nonviolent offenders, mostly dealing with drug-related issues, selling drugs, buying drugs, having drugs in their possession, and or taking drugs and doing a crime with the possession of drugs. Sonya, you work with the community recovery network system in Santa Barbara. You deal with our brothers and sisters who are recovering alcoholics, drug addicts. Can you tell us, we see that the majority of our African American brothers and the Latino brothers, most of them are having mandatory minimum sentencings for drug using. Mm-hmm. And can you tell us what your statistics shows based on your organization?
Yeah, I will, and I'll add a few other things too. Once when I was on the program talking about the disparity between the population in Santa Barbara and the number of black people that show up in jail or prison in the Santa Barbara area is totally out of proportion. And we had a caller that called in, and he was a Caucasian gentleman, and he said that he had been in jail, and when he was in court, he had the same charge as an African-American man, and he got lesser of a sentence than the African-American man. So he saw it with his very own eyes, that difference in sentencing. In Santa Barbara County, when you start to ask about this of the public officials, you get some very strange answers, like, well, there aren't very many African American people in Santa Barbara, so we don't have those statistics. But I did find the statistics. I had to dig deep for them. Even though there's a small population of African Americans in Santa Barbara, when you start looking at who is in the numbers in prison and jail, you get a very interesting perspective. There's 1.5% population of African Americans in Santa Barbara County, in Santa Barbara City, and yet 10% are in jail or prison. So that's 10 times the number that are in the general population. 10 times that number are in jail or prison, and out of that number, 80% are in there on drug charges. So there is a definite problem there, and the same with Latina men and women. You get the same breakdown of figures and stuff. that there's a little bit more attention paid to the Latino population because they are a larger number, more visible. And I really have a problem with the fact that officials are refusing to look at the African Americans in jail and prison here and saying that there isn't a problem. And then you start looking at the treatment programs in Santa Barbara, and there are hardly any African American people in those programs. So you tell me that there's not a problem. You look, I was just looking at this commercial on TV, and one of the bigger treatment programs in Santa Barbara has this, really nice commercial about their programs and stuff, and they wanted all the community. There wasn't one black person in that commercial, So it's time that Santa Barbara starts to open their eyes and look around them and realize that there is a problem. People complain about, we don't have to do anything about that because, they're taken care of in jail and stuff, but they're not taken care of in jail and stuff. And you're going to get this whole thing perpetuated over and over again if you don't start, addressing the problem. Start addressing the problem with children. Up in Los Prietos, most of the population up there is Latino young men. And when they come out in the community, there's no place for them to go. And Chris and I were talking before the program, is that, you really have to start working with people, at that age and helping them change their thinking. What Elijah was saying about the things that get pumped into people's heads, that's a really important place where we have to start. And for people that have already gotten all this stuff pumped into their heads, there are also programs that are starting to help people that are coming out of prison to start rethinking, changing their way of thinking, the way that they look at things, the way they make decisions. And I love what Elijah was saying about ADD, because that's a huge problem with people that are in prison. I would say probably about 80% of them have ADD or ADHD, and that's never looked at, unless they want to pump them full of Ritalin, which is not going to solve the problem. And that whole thing about doing without thinking. So there are programs. We're going to start getting some training in. There's a certain term for it that escapes my mind right now, but it is working with people and helping them make decisions that are in their best interest, so that they're not re-victimizing themselves by getting caught up into the system and thrown back into the system over and over again, and not able to do what they really want to do. Because you ask anybody and you give them half of a chance, and they're going to want to do the thing that's going to be good for them. People don't want to go back to prison.
You know what? Let's talk about the prison industrial complex. Let's talk about it that it's not just a set of interest groups and institutions. It's a state of mind. Mm-hmm. It's the lure of big money now. We can see that if we can house these people, we have free labor for some major big corporations to do what they want to do, to keep the power in B. The inner workings of the prison industrial complex can really be observed in the state of New York. That's what I'm going to give back to you, Brother Elijah, because that's where the prison boom has really started. The act of privatizing the prisons back in New York, because they see it's a perceived reaction to a threat. Brother Elijah, what kind of programs do you see that is supporting the privatization of prisons in New York? And can you tell us about what we just shared now about how it's being privatized to big businesses are handling it instead of the federal and the state?
Well, I'm sure the other panelists will have much more statistics on the prison industrial complex than what I have in front of me, and no offhand. But I would say this, is that it's a slave plantation, and it's actually like a third world country. The same way, white supremacy is a worldwide phenomenon, and it whatever they practice at home, they practice it abroad. It's the whole third world country concept of devaluing someone's currency to make them a slave on their own land is the same motivation and mindset that drives the prison industrial complex. When you have brothers working for $1 a day or less, it's the same as a third world country that, 200 of their dollars is equal to one of our dollars. So this, to me, is deeper than a business concept. To me, it's a white supremacy concept. I always tell my students like this: if you jump somebody and, maybe you took their wallet from them without them looking, and you see that same person the next day come around the block with 5 or 10 of his friends, you may just get off and run thinking that he's coming after you because you have a guilty conscience because you know what you did to that person. It's the same way with white supremacy. They have to. There are those in government that feel they have to keep the African-American, black population, Latino population in this destabilized, enslaved state so that they can feel comfortable because they know what they have done to us historically. And they feel after a Million Man March or after seeing the rise in consciousness among black people, they feel that that consciousness will cause black people to do to them or to seek revenge and do to them what they have done to us historically. So I believe it's a fear factor behind all of this. I know that they are aware of other ways that they can make money without putting our people in this condition. But they choose to make money by putting our people in this condition because it's always that fear factor. What will happen if these people wake up and really realize what we have done to them? What will they do to us?
Chris, do you have anything to add to that?
There's a lot to add to that, and I think, too, like what Brother Shabazz was talking about with when you create a framework that dehumanizes, that makes people less than human, and the prison system is based on that. It is based on caging human beings. It relies on a system of dehumanization, much like slavery did before. The prison system does that today. And so when you look at that, and this is not just a U.S. phenomenon, like Brother Shabazz was saying, this is a global phenomenon. A lot of people don't know that Abu Ghraib, that was run by people who were advising from prison wardens in the United States. What was the first thing that the U.S. did to control the Iraqi population when they went over and occupied the territory? The first thing they did was turn Abu Ghraib into their own prison. Now they have over 10,000 people in prison within 2 years. So they're creating these prison systems. They also have them in Afghanistan. They're using some now in Guantanamo Bay. They're creating these prison systems to control a global population. And here in the United States, we've seen it with communities of color by far. And so that's what it is. And it is a money-making industry. Like, for example, Corrections Corporation of America. They are trading prison stocks right now on the New York Stock Exchange. Wackenhut is the same way. Victoria's Secret uses prison laborers. TWA uses prison labor. Next time you call and make a reservation for your airlines, you might be calling into prison because they can pay people third world wages. They can use sweatshop. It is a sweatshop. It is an American version of a sweatshop. So, that is what the prison system is. It is a increasingly for-profit organization that is controlling populations. And another thing it does is there's a serious unemployment problem in the United States. And so the prison is one of the ways that this government has come up with dealing with issues of unemployment. And that's a tragedy because the prison, as far as what it does to the mindset of a guard, it breeds racism. It breeds people who are extremely dysfunctional. Guards have some of the highest domestic violence rates among all populations. And so it corrupts everything it touches.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that, Chris, is that what is really dismaying to me is to see how many African American men and women in college are majoring in criminal justice, and they're studying to become guards. And that whole mentality, I see them, when they have their orientations for people getting out of prison here in Santa Barbara, you should see the way that they talk to people. It's like not talking to them like they're talking to a person. It's like they're talking to a piece of shit, and they're not treating them as people. And I shouldn't have said that, but excuse me. Anyway, they don't talk to them like you would like to be talked to. And they're treating them as lesser than. Like you have been in prison, and so therefore, we're going to treat you that way, and we're not going to respect you. And to see, brothers and sisters treating other brothers and sisters that way is really disheartening.
You can also see that there are small towns that didn't have any employment or any employers in their community. Only when a prison became in their community were they able to have some type of employment for the community members. I mean, that was their only employer, was a prison. And so, Chris, I can see that this, yes, it's a fear, as Brother Elijah was saying, it's a fear, but they're profiting off this fear. And that's going to only refuel what they are doing already in terms of collecting the money now to try to overcome this perception of threat that they're faced upon. So I can see this now developing more as a big business proposal now, because there was an article in the Santa Barbara News Press on April 26 that talked about in Sacramento that Republican Governor Arnold was thanking the Democratic legislators Monday for a bipartisan agreement to support one of his proposals, the reorganization of the state's troubled prison system. The Assembly on Monday approved 56-5 legislative changes to Mr. Arnold's plan to reorganize the prison system. The vanguard of his efforts is to restructure the state government. Mr. Arnold wants to transfer power from the Adult Department of Corrections and the Youth Authority to a consolidated cabinet-level Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, headed by the current Youth and Adult Corrections Secretary, Roderick Hickman. So we are not the only ones talking about this. This is people and legislators are talking about how we can control these prison systems instead of having all these different separate entities, the youth and the correctional department. We're going to have one major corporation or one major entity controlling everything underneath. Do you see that happening? And Chris, do you see that basically, the structure is changing of how the prison systems are being controlled once it's being privatized?
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. The structure of the prison is changing. I think, on a more positive element, there are a lot of us on the ground that are trying to make sure that we change it in a more positive direction. One of the things we have to ask about these prison institutions is, what are they doing? You look at the California Youth Authority, one of the most brutal institutions in the world. U.S. is the number one incarcerator of the world. It's the number one incarcerator of children. It was U.S. is one of two countries that, until relatively recently, was allowing the execution of children. And so when we look at, say, the California Youth Authority and ask, what is it doing? Well, California Youth Authority has a 91% recidivism rate. A 91%. Imagine, if Ford Motor Company had a 91% failure rate, it would be gone. And so there is no accountability. It's really difficult for the folks on the outside to get into the prisons to see what they're doing. There is no public accountability for these institutions at all. And, and take that 91%. Out of the 9% that did get out of the CYA and didn't return, we found out that 2% of those were dead. And so there was only a 7% success rate with CYA. So it tells us dramatically that we're not just talking about reform. We are talking about a revolution within the system. And on the ground, from the ground up, we need to change that system so it has more public accountability, not only to folks on the outside, but also to folks on the inside, because it is the folks on the inside who need to be able to start controlling their own destiny without having the state intervene. And the state has been the number one obstacle to anybody's recovery process.
So, Chris, what has happened to the Isla Vista halfway house? Tell me what happened. You closed that up a couple of months ago, was shut down. What happened?
Well, the Isla Vista halfway house was one of those rare halfway houses. There's a problem with a number of halfway houses in that they are run like prison facilities. And with the Isla Vista halfway house, we had a small facility that was working. Out of all of those who were there are 11 people there. Out of the 11 people there, every one of them had jobs. Some had 2 jobs. Some were going in and getting their education at the local colleges. And so it was an extremely successful program, and it was a program that had a lot of community support. We found out as we were working there, and a number of us had been working there, the director of the program had been working there for 10 years, and we found out a week before it was closing. The folks who were living there found out a week before it was closing. And so one of the things we wanted to do was publicize the fact that here is a Federal Bureau of Prisons that is a chronically failing institution that is closing down one of the very few successful facilities that they have. And so within a week, we were able to organize about 250 people, one of the first demonstrations of its kind that actually mobilized mobilize people to support a halfway house in the community. And it was a very successful halfway house. We had students going in and out of those facilities and building a community between students and the residents of those halfway houses. And now, as it is, the Federal Bureau of Prisons continued to close it down. We really tried to contact our representatives and didn't receive, we received minimal help from them, and now it's closed down. A number of those folks who were living at the halfway house, who had jobs, who were going to school, who were piecing their lives back together, now were transferred down to facilities in Inglewood and Echo Park that have 200 people. And when you have 200 people, the chances of drama jumping off in those institutions is high. I've just talked to one person who ended back up in prison now. And I don't, it wasn't a fault of his own at all. It was a product of a state policy that failed him. He didn't fail the institution failed him.
Chris, what other programs are you working with in terms of alternative or to for prison abolitionists? What other options or alternative programs are out there that you work with? You also teach classes in Ventura about it. Can you talk about that a little bit? We want to change the subject to what we can do now to make a solution. What can we do? We got the information out there. What is it that we can do? Brother Elijah, you'll be on next. Tell me what your program's all about. Chris, go ahead.
Well, I'm part of the Clearwater Project, and the Clearwater Project used to run programs at the Isla Vista Halfway House, and now we're running programs down in Ventura. One of the things that does is it kind of teaches life skills. But when you're talking about life skills, it's not just your average everyday life skills, but it's talking about the system too. Because people who are coming out of the system have to understand that, hey, you know, some obstacles happen and some things happen where you were knocked on your feet. But in a lot of cases, although there is personal accountability there, a lot of cases when you look at the context of what people are going through, it's understandable. The system is set up for people to fail. And so one of the things that we do with the Clearwater Project is we do talk about those issues. We talk about the drug war and how it's targeting communities of color. We talk about gang injunctions and how they're criminalizing, you know, a great deal of youth of color in this country. And so we talk about those things so that people know what kind of traps there are out there. And people in those programs, of course, know that. And so it's a great time to bring students from local colleges in to the program and also bring residents of these communities, these therapeutic recovery communities, together to kind of talk about what is going on with this prison industrial complex and how can we get free.
Brother Shabazz, who we have on from New York City and Harlem, many years he's been in the background making his first appearance on an LP entitled Black in Time with MCJX in the year of 1990. His most recent appearance on the gold-selling album Moment of Truth by Gangstar, Brother Elijah Shabazz brings his works to the forefront. He's an artist, an activist, releasing his second classic CD single, which promises to be a collector's item as his music continues to break on the national and international market. The maxi single is entitled Addiction, The Streets Are Calling for Me, and has tracks produced by hip-hop veteran Barry B. of the legendary Get Fresh crew and upcoming producer Sir K. The single has received rare and raving reviews from hip-hop artists, producers, and fans alike. Brother ElijahShabazzBah captivates his listeners with his soothing yet commanding voice as he delivers through provoking and thought-provoking lyrics. In addition to Elijah's music career, he is also a community activist. Brother Elijah has been the sponsor and chief instructor of the Junior Fruit of Islam Manhood Training Program based in Harlem. He also does prison ministry at the youth facility in New Jersey, and in Newark, New Jersey, where he counsels the young men there and gives them a free concert. He has been given the Congressional Award for Outstanding Achievement in the Community for the year 2004. So, Brother Elijah, you have been busy. You're busy both in the music career, you're busy both in the community, getting our brothers and sisters ready for getting their free in their minds. But let's talk about your music, because I feel that is most imperative today, that we have brothers and sisters who are very conscious, brothers and sisters who are for freedom fighters, who are liberators, who want to change the condition of our community through the music. As we had other brothers and sisters on, we talked about the weapon is in the microphone. So, Brother Elijah, share some of your music with us. Talk about your inspiration of your music and how things are going with that right now.
Well, everything is going well, and my music is a tool to really teach. You know, it works hand in hand. I don't separate the work I do in the community from my music. You know, one fuels the other, and one helps the other, whether it's economically and also to just inspire and enlighten our youth. If I have a few minutes, I would like to share a piece that I do in the juvenile facilities that wakes them up. And, you know, sometimes preaching is good, but the spoken word, the lyrics, usually touches them better and quicker, if I may.
Yes, sir.
This piece is called addiction. Addiction is addiction no matter how it goes. One's addicted to the product, one's addicted to the dough. Bounce while you can. Drop that ounce in your hand, yo. Get the G's and G-O. We didn't know about this high till it was advertised. A news anchor man was on scene, reporting live, important ties to agencies that's major league pushing street product on paid TV. You thought it was a news report, showing you the new import, how it's loaded, shipped, unloaded, used and bought, cut, cooked, wrapped, opened, how it's more potent than what you're already smoking. Knowing fiends want that next level. These street peddlers, they petty, they're chasing paper, trying to out-pedal. Snitches blow whistle like a kettle. And though you know they exist, you insist that you're a smart rebel. They got eyes in the sky, satellites over 20,000 miles high that can spot your shoestrings untied, but can't see the drugs when they're smuggling by. The man that buy is an agent. The man that spy is an agent. The man that supply is an agent. Dealer turned snitch is a contagion. It's a no-win, no-win, no-win situation. But tell that to a thug that's impatient. Legal dough is too slow. The heat you hold turns cold. When po-po rolls and takes your hold, you're back to zero. Now easy come, easy go. Addiction is addiction no matter how it goes. One's addicted to the product, one's addicted to the dough. Bounce while you can, drop that ounce in your hand, yo. Get the G's and G-O. You have city tax, state tax, and Fed tax. We do our city time on Rikers Island, and upstate is where we max. With the feds, you go national. They ship you from Tennessee to Butner to Otisville, what have you. But keep in mind, a crime is a crime. So it really shouldn't matter where a brother does time. But it does. It's simply because there's 3 different governments operating, and each and every one must get their cut. If you hustle on corner, city and state locks you up. If you trafficking, then them feds put you in cuffs. They're getting paid for every day you locked up. Plus a multi-million-dollar check from them calls you may collect. And don't forget the prison industrial complex where they have you working for $1 a day or less. So when these cats say they hustling, I chuckle. You're really not hustlers. You're really getting hustled.
Beautiful. My brother, do you see a difference in the responding of your young people when they hear you produce those lyrics to them? What is the young people's reaction?
Oh, their reaction has been overwhelming.
I'm pretty sure it has been, yes.
Because it speaks to their condition. It makes them to understand the traps that were set for them. And when I'm speaking to them while they're locked up, it makes even more sense because they know that's how they got there, in the first place. And it helps them to change their mind about ever doing that again. And the key thing is to get them before they get in. I have a program in Harlem, the Junior FOI and Manhood Training Program, and I invite the brothers and sisters from the community to bring their young males in because the same way we send our children to Catholic school, we don't care that they learn Catholicism as long as they learn to be a better person, they get good grades, and they go on to do something great in life. It's the same way with the Junior FOI Manhood Training Program. Yes, they may learn something about religion, but they will get that discipline to do something positive and great with their life afterwards.
I definitely commend the Fruit of Islam Manhood Training Program because most of the young American-born African men do not have a father figure in the home, and I believe that's definitely a setup process also. Yet you are really trying to make a difference by getting into the prison systems, talking to our young brothers and sisters, and making a difference, and we commend you for that, Brother Elijah Shabazz. We commend you for that. That's a beautiful effort that you're doing because the Nation of Islam has always been a positive entity in our community, no matter where we are. Your efforts have been affecting all of us, and we just want to commend you and all of the brothers and sisters there in your production crew. And tell us, what are you working on now? Where are you? What other prisons are you going to do some ministry in, and what are you going to do with your music at this point? Where are you heading now?
Well, I'm going to and fro wherever our people are. I was just upstate New York teaching a group of young people out there, and they want me to come back. So I'm just basically spreading my wings. And, the program in New York is but a model. That's my foundation. I've been doing it in New York City for 9 years now. But now I'm receiving calls from around the country. They want me to come and help to set up the same prototype in other cities. So by the grace of Allah, God, I'll be able to do that and inspire young people around the country to, self-discipline and positive peer pressure, as we would like to call it, just being around a group of young men who are strong but are about positive things.
Brother ElijahShabazzBah, can you give us some contact information for people in the West Coast here that want to contact you and maybe share some of this music? And we would love to share some of the music that you have on KCSB, because we need to continue to educate people. And so give us some contact information, please, sir.
Yes, you can reach me at ElijahShabazzBah@yahoo.com. You can email me there, or you can email me at ElijahShabazzProductions@yahoo.com. Also, my number is 212-927-9405. That's area code 212-927-9405. And I'm working on my album, which God willing will be ready in June. It's called I Got to Drop a Jewel, meaning a jewel of knowledge. Thank you.
And we also like to thank Sister Star X for helping me to set up this interview with you. Sister Star X, praises and blessings for your efforts and for your time and your commitment to keep coming to me and setting up this time. And I thank you so much, Sister Star X in New York also. So peace and blessings to you. Brother Elijah, before I let you go, I just want you to say a prayer or some words of wisdom of give to our young people that I asked to listen today, who are on that verge, which way should I go? As you say, it's easy money over here, but yet they're not looking at the consequences there. In the next moment or two, my brother, could you please give us some type of words of reasoning, teaching, a prayer to our young people who are listening?
Yes, I'll try to be as brief as possible. First of all, I just left the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and he mentioned in his speech in New York, he spoke today, but he's on his way. He said he will be in San Quentin prison to speak to the founder of the Crips gang, and he wants to also speak to Governor Schwarzenegger to try to get the brother, a governmental pardon. I want to say to all the young brothers and sisters who are on the verge of joining a gang or are in a gang, I never say to the young brothers when I go into the prison that are Bloods or Crips to actually leave a gang, because black organization is black organization regardless. We just want to change the direction of that organization. The Bloods was originally a group of individuals that came together to do something positive in the community, but over time, negative elements became a part of that gang. The Bloods was originally to stop the Ku Klux Klan from terrorizing black people in the community, and so were the Crips. So we want that idea. If you're going to be a part of a gang or a youth organization, I would like to say, do something positive. There's ways of making money other than selling death and destruction to your people. If you just sold your people the Pampers, you could make $1 million. If you just sold your people the milk that they drink every day, you could clock a G on the corner, thousands of dollars, doing something legit. You do not have to kill and destroy your people to make money. That powerful organization that you have can be used to uplift, benefit yourself, and also benefit your people and avoid the trap of the prison industrial complex, the new slavery. Thank you.
Brother ElijahShabazzBah, please thank everyone, Brother Muhammad there, for just being inspirational, being positive for our young people, and loving us and caring enough about us for our concern, for our health, for our mental well-being. And we thank you. We're sending positive vibrations your way to protect you, your family, the community in New York, Harlem, and into all of our major urban cities. We thank you so much, Brother ElijahShabazzBah, for being here, taking out the time of your busy schedule to share with us. You will have an open invitation anytime to share with us, with your music and with your words of reasoning and teachings. Brother ElijahShabazzBah, thank you so much, and may Allah bless you and your family. Thank you so much.
As well.
Thank you. All right, that was Brother ElijahShabazzBah. from Harlem, New York, and we have some more contact information. If you would like to reach him, you can contact me at the radio station. We're talking about the prison industrial complex on KCSB, a very, very, very important subject for our community, for our young people. We have Chris Bickel here, one of the organizers of the halfway house in Isla Vista that got shut down. You know, why? Why did that get shut down? We needed an institution like that. We needed that project. So just stay aware of what's going on. We have Sonya Baker. Sonya, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes because I want you to talk about, Brother Elijah talked about addictions, and that was a beautiful poem and just spoken words and reasoning about that, how we get addicted to things as a people. Tell us just briefly about any treatment programs that are coming up, since you are working with the community networking, recovery network system. You're trying to get us back on our feet. You're trying to help us. You know, we've been out there on drugs, on alcohol, and we know that through our program that they are looking for drug users to get into the prison, so we don't want to get them there. So what other alternative treatment programs are out there? Sonya, what can you do to share with us? Thank you.
That Community Recovery Network is, we have submitted a proposal to do outreach in the African American community in Santa Barbara, and that means, you know, outreach to young people and adults alike, working with the churches and working in the community so that there is more of a presence of people doing positive things around helping people not get involved, helping kids not get involved in drugs and alcohol, and also helping people that have gotten caught up in the system, finding different ways to channel their energies and stuff, and helping people feel that they're not by themselves. Because, you know, when you go into a program and you don't see people that you can relate to and stuff, you can't relate. You know, you're not, and you don't hear what people are saying. So we have that going. Also working with a group of people where we are going to be working with youth in the community, and I can't say a whole lot about that until it's more ready to go. But it will be a real positive thing, working with young people, helping them, youth that have gotten into trouble, helping them helping them integrate back into the community or make better choices when they get back into the community. And showing that there is a community out here, like Chris was saying, that's so important for people that are coming out of prison, being able to be a part of a positive and a healthy community when they get out. And, you know, people always feel so separate from people that are in prison, thinking like, well, they must be really bad people and I don't want to have anything to do with them. And that's just not true, you know. It's like we got a lot of people you know that you probably know that are that have been in prison and stuff. And like I said, as a community, it is our responsibility to stand up and help people get back into a healthier lifestyle and stuff, and not for us to get all caught up in our own personal worlds where we shut people out. So that's what we've been working on.
Sonya, could you please give us your contact information for people who want to support your program and how we can get more treatment programs instead of prison sentence for our young brothers and sisters?
Yeah, if people need information on referrals and stuff, you can call me. Right now we're still working on getting our old phone number hooked up, but you can reach me at area code 805-451-1573. We do have the same email address, and that's Sonya, SONYA, at communityrecovery.org. We are incorporated, and we're in the process of getting our final 501c3 status. So hopefully in the next month or so we'll have that status so that people can donate to us directly, and we can write some grants and stuff like that. And we're working on a temporary way of people being able to donate to us, because there are some people out there that want to donate right now. So call me and I can give you some of that information.
Thank you very much, Sonya.
And I need some contact information from Chris, too. So
yes, Chris, I would like you to give some contact information. You are teaching classes. Also, we can contact the Federal Bureau of Prisons if we want to continue to get some halfway houses back in our area. Tell us some information about that.
Yeah, I think you've got some of the information with Federal Bureau of Prisons, I believe. One of the things, between north of L.A. all the way up into Northern California, there was only 2 federal halfway houses that are being run. Now there's only 1, so we need to get them to start opening small community-based halfway houses. We need to have them to be accountable to the community, not just the Federal Bureau of Prisons, because the Federal Bureau of Prisons does not have the best interest of the folks inside at heart. We need those to be community-accountable halfway houses. And so definitely I'll let you share that information with Federal Bureau of Prisons. And my contact information, you can contact me at 805-259-6078. Again, that's 805-259-6078, or by email at cbickel@umail.ucsb.edu.
All right, Chris, and that information, if you want to contact the Federal Bureau of Prisons and urge them to stop the closing of the working alternative halfway houses in Isla Vista and in other areas, here is the address and phone number. It's the Federal Bureau of Prisons, 320 First Street, Northwest, Washington, D.C., 20534. Phone numbers, area code 202-307-3198. 202-307-3198 to contact the Federal Bureau of Prisons, to tell them to stop closing down these working alternative halfway houses, not just in Isla Vista in our area, but across the country. We need them. So your effort is always important, ladies and gentlemen. We give you information, but you need to become activists. You need to take care of the business. So with that, I want to thank all of my guests. Brother Elijah Shabazz in Harlem, New York City, thank you so much. Sister Sonya Baker right here in Santa Barbara with the Community Network Project. We also have Chris Bickel, and he is one of the organizers for Halfway House here. He wants to keep another one going. He also have classes. So we want to thank him for showing up and just giving us, all of them, giving you, the listeners, positive information to take with you and do something with. You got contact information. There's no reason why you can't do and stand up for yourself. I'm going to leave you with a song called Conspiracy, and this song is by Pita Man. And this will just summarize what we talked about today. We want to thank you very much. Take good care of yourselves and each other, and stay tuned for another program on African Kaleidoscope next week.
It's a conspiracy. Somebody try and shackle me. It's a conspiracy. Why won't they just let me be? I'm not the kind of man who like to fight. Say I only fight for the right. When people make a big lie about me, don't believe what you hear and half of what you see. It's a conspiracy. Somebody try and shackle me. It's a conspiracy. Why won't they just let me be? Long time ago I was in charge. Careless man, come in my yard. They say I can play the game, but I can't hold no team now. Jah is my shepherd, he make it so I see now. It's a conspiracy. Somebody try and shackle me. what you do to me will come back to you. Tell me, evil man, then what you do. It's a conspiracy. All I want to do is just get somebody try and shackle me. All I want to do is be free. It's a conspiracy. All I want to do is just get. Why won't they just let me